After his grandfather's passing, Chris inherits the lake house he loves. He can only get it if he plans the perfect Christmas party. He hires an event planner, Mary, and feels drawn towards her. Chris is trying to talk to a client, but his assistant, Beth, keeps calling him. She informs him that his mother, Renee, has called 11 times since the morning. Chris calls her back because she claims it's an emergency. Renee is worried because she hasn't heard from her only son in a week. Chris explains that it's hectic around the holidays. She reminds him he can never be too busy for family. He is glad to hear her voice and explains that he's working on a holiday campaign. He admits he misses his grandfather a lot. Renee informs him that Joseph's will was read out that day. Chris knows Joseph planned to split everything between Renee, his Aunt Jean, and Uncle Jack. Renee explains that he left some surprises for the grandkids like his car and boat. He has opened some trust funds for others. Chris doesn't want anything, but Renee reminds him he was Joseph's favorite. Joseph has left him the lake house he loves in Maine. Chris can only get it if he hosts Christmas like Joseph used to. Chris knows if Joseph wants this, he will find a day to make it work. With Christmas only a month away, Chris gets to work. Chris meets his boss, Larry, in his office. Larry hopes Chris had a nice Thanksgiving. He thinks being around family is good for everyone. Chris explains that he spent Thanksgiving alone since his grandpa passed away a few weeks ago. Larry invites Chris to his place for such festivities. Chris reminds Larry that he had a lot of work to do with the Black Friday ad. Larry is impressed their sales have gone up 17% from last year. Larry thinks Chris works too hard and needs some time off. Chris explains the situation with his grandpa's will and how he needs to host Christmas in Maine. He asks if he can work remotely till the new year. Larry agrees to let him work from anywhere if he can keep up the great work. Chris asks Beth to reschedule all his phone calls. He even asks for a list of the best event planners in Christmas Cove in Maine. He explains that he needs a list from South Bristol, while his house is in Christmas Cove. He gives her the day off and informs her that he will work remotely. Jordan thinks Chris has packed for more than a month. Chris wants to move his whole life to Maine if he plans to work from there. He's taking his car because his house in Christmas Cove is in the middle of nowhere. Chris explains that it's on Rutherford Island in South Bristol. He assures Jordan that Christmas Cove is a real place with a few homes. His grandparents lived there their whole lives, and now it has been passed down to him. Chris talks about all his family's Christmas memories in that house. His mom grew up there, and everyone visits the lake house from the family for Christmas. They didn't know they would celebrate this year without his grandpa, but he decided for Chris. He asked Jordan to join him for Christmas with his family. Chris's parents, 2 aunts, and uncles will be there, along with their kids. It sounds like a full house to Jordan, but Chris assures him there's room for plenty more. Jordan promises to talk to his folks. Felicia introduces the owner of Merry Events, Meredith Block, to the South Bristol Chamber of Commerce. Felicia invites her to the stage as an advocate of her small business. Meredith, who likes to be called Mary, feels shy and nervous. She still explains that she just opened her company and decorates and cooks for small parties. Mary assures the audience that she is licensed and trained in the culinary arts. She even spent some time in Paris. Felicia wonders why Mary wants to handle events. Mary admits she has always enjoyed planning parties. Her parents never cared about birthdays or holidays, so she has always planned things herself. She asks the audience to not feel sad for her. She's proud that her mom, Karen, is a neurosurgeon, and her dad, Carl, is a scientist. They have always been so busy around the holidays, so Mary started putting events together. Mary clarifies that she doesn't spend the holidays with them. She's hoping to get a Christmas client who doesn't have time to decorate for a small party. Felicia admires that Mary held her own, even after she put her on the spot. She's sure Mary can gain confidence with time. Felicia assures her she also hates speaking in front of crowds, but she hypes herself up for these things. She informs Mary about a call she got in the morning. Felicia wants Mary to plan a client's party in Christmas Cove. Mary assures her she will not disappoint her. Felicia wishes her luck since she'll be off to the Bahamas for a month with her husband for the holidays. Mary comes home to her cat, Thaddeus, and feeds him. She calls Beth and explains that Felicia referred her. Beth informs her about Chris and his grandfather's passing. Mary feels bad it happened right around the holidays. Beth explains the stipulation with the inheritance and how Chris needs Mary's help to plan a party. Beth knows Chris is a great man, but is horrible at parties. She assures Mary she will be paid well to handle 10 adults and decorate the house. Mary assures Beth she handles the food herself. Beth asks Mary to take Christmas Eve off if she needs it, but Mary is needed on Christmas Day, which is fine with her. Beth is glad because everyone else she spoke to refused to work on Christmas. Mary explains that even if she loves Christmas, she usually spends it with friends. Beth wants to hire her on the spot, but Chris wants to meet her first at the lake house. Beth admits they had more candidates, but she is the only one left. She asks Mary to meet Chris at 10 in the morning. Chris arrives at the lake house and starts missing his grandpa. He stays up late at night and wakes up to a call from Renee. He even hurts his head in a hurry. Renee assumes he's meeting the attorney, but Chris doesn't explain. Mary gets extra coffee and donuts in the morning for her interview. She heard from Beth that Chris got in late last night. She assumes there will be no supplies at the house. Casey knows that will make a good impression, so he hands over the order. Chris realizes there's no food in the fridge and heads out. He bumps into Mary, who introduces herself. He apologizes for sleeping in and not having coffee for her. She gives him the coffee she got for him and explains why she thought of bringing it. Chris hires her on the spot because he needs someone considerate like her to handle his family's party. He invites her inside to discuss the details and doesn't want to interview her. He has spoken to Beth and knows she's the only decorator available. Mary clarifies that she's an event planner who works alone unless it's a big party with 50 people or more. Chris assures her there will be around 10 adults and a few kids, which she thinks is manageable. He offers her $12,000, which is more than generous for her. He promises to tell Beth to send her the contract and gives her his credit card for the supplies. He shows her the house and asks her to add extra tables in the dining room like Joseph used to. He shows her where he would like the tree, and she's glad he knows what he wants. He's trying to remember how his grandpa did everything. Mary asks him to show her pictures of previous Christmases and promises to match them. She also offers to cook some of his favorite dishes to honor him. Chris shows her the entrance to the house. He explains that if it snows, people are supposed to enter from his favorite game room downstairs. He shows her the linen closet and the guest room he slept in last night. He explains that he used to sleep there with his cousins, Jack and Clint. The other rooms are in the basement and on the second floor. He shows her the big tree room where the adults always hang out. Mary realizes he wants this room to be more elegant. Chris agrees that he wants it to be different because they exchange gifts in this room too. In the end, he shows her the game room where some of his best family memories were made. He learned cards from his uncle and has won the family championship 3 years in a row. He explains how the room always has snacks, so she knows he wants the decorations there not to be too fancy. He shows her the door they use when it snows, and they leave the shoes outside. Mary suggests a slipper station so people can change into them when they enter. Chris loves the idea and trusts her to decorate the house well. He can tell she understands how important Christmas is to his family. He offers to let her leave early on Christmas Day, but she assures him she will figure it out then. He's setting up his office in the game room and asks her to work outside during the weekdays. He remembers that Joseph always had a theme. He asks Mary to choose what she thinks is appropriate. Bella is impressed Chris is offering her so much money. Mary explains that he's a retail bigwig in Manhattan who wants to make Christmas memorable for his family. Bella teases Mary about Chris, but Mary doesn't even know if he is single. She admits he's cute, but insists it's only business. She refuses to introduce Bella to Chris so she doesn't get into trouble. Mary is almost sure she's taking the job, but Bella can tell she's hopeful about her parents. Bella has been friends with Mary since they were 12. She has spent every holiday with her since then. Bella wants Mary to know it's fine if she doesn't celebrate the holidays with her parents. Bella still urges Mary to call her folks to check if they have something planned for the holidays. Carl answers the phone very formally. She learns that Karen is working overtime on Christmas so the other doctors can spend time with their families. Mary admits she misses them and asks if they have any holiday plans. Carl doesn't understand who to spend holidays with when Karen is working. Mary reminds him he can spend it with her since she's their only daughter. They haven't met in 3 years, so Carl suggests she can come to Baltimore anytime. Mary reminds him that she spent Christmas with Bella's family for over a decade. Carl suggests sending them a gift basket. That was surely not the point. Carl still doesn't understand her point and asks if she needs money for a cruise with Bella. Mary doesn't care if her parents are saving lives and feels terrible that this Christmas will be the same. She admits she got a great job on Christmas and wants to know if they plan to surprise her. Carl reminds her he doesn't like surprises and thinks this job can be good for her. He wants Mary to save up well for her future. Mary feels low after talking to Carl and decides to take up the job. Bella knows she will be excellent at whatever she does. She doesn't let Mary sulk and asks her to sign the contract. Chris asks the delivery person to put his groceries in the fridge. Since she doesn't do that, Chris asks her to leave them on the table. Arty Stein, Joseph's attorney, arrives next with wine. He is handling the execution of Joseph's will. He remembers how great Joseph was and wonders if Chris has heard about the stipulations for the inheritance. The house looks very sober, but Chris assures him he has hired someone to decorate it. He promises to host the party like Joseph used to. He invites Arty to the party with his family. He assures him having 3 extra people won't be an issue and makes Arty feel comfortable. When Chris mentions that he hired Mary, Arty gets excited. She planned Arty's daughter's bat mitzvah and thinks she's very good at what she does. Arty also promises to bring the papers Chris needs to sign for the house's deed. Chris promises to give Mary the spare key the next time he lets her in. She's impressed that he finally shopped for groceries. She needs to bring some boxes of decorations in, but doesn't let him help her. She hands him the contract and promises her services till the day after Christmas. He suggests it'll be easier if she brings the boxes through the game room. He assures her it won't disturb him. She starts bringing in the boxes while Chris works. She insists she wants to handle this herself. Larry is mad at Chris because everything is terrible at the office. Chris reminds him he has only been gone a day. Larry sent an email 5 minutes ago and is upset that Chris hasn't seen it yet. That's surely reasonable. Chris assures him that working remotely won't affect his performance. He checks the mail about their new marketing campaign, which is releasing at midnight. He assures Larry he will fix it soon. Mary gets stuck outside in the snow and keeps knocking on the door. Chris eventually hears her and opens the door. He reminds her that the door will slide and lock if it isn't propped open. She doesn't want to bother him, but he assures her he can deal with the work crisis. Mary suggests making a meal that night, which she could potentially make for Christmas dinner. He asks her to join him professionally so he can give his feedback. When Chris finishes work, he gets a call from Renee. She heard he invited Arty's family for Christmas. Chris remembers he forgot to tell Mary. Renee wonders who Mary is and hopes Chris didn't hire an event planner. It's too late. She reminds him that Joseph wanted Chris to carry on the tradition by cooking and decorating himself. Chris assures her he knows the tradition and feels like decorating with someone will be nice. Renee still wonders if he hired her, but Chris doesn't confirm. He admits she's cooking for him, so Renee assumes Mary is a romantic interest. Chris assures Renee that Mary loves cooking and decorating. He cuts the call when Mary calls him for dinner, and he feels it smells delicious. She thinks the wine he's offering will pair great with the chicken. He explains that he invited his grandpa's attorney for the dinner too. Mary is fine with 3 more people and is excited to learn he's talking about Arty's family. She remembers them as wonderful people. Chris insists she also made a great impression. She can tell Chris has some issues with the meal and asks him to be direct with her. Chris insists chicken is too basic for Christmas dinner because his grandpa went all out with the cooking. He still loves the broccoli and salad. She assures him she'll make many options so he can decide what he wants. She brings a chocolate cream pie with vanilla whipped cream for dessert. His expression changes when he tries it, so Mary asks him to be honest. Chris reveals that this cream pie tastes exactly like how Joseph made it. It's just missing the crust, and he remembers Joseph calling it Aunt Minnie's chocolate cream pie. Chris doesn't have an Aunt Minnie, but Mary does. Mary explains that her grandpa had a sister, and her name was Aunt Minnie. She was a baker, and Mary has used her recipe. What are the odds? They even published her recipe in the paper. She thinks Joseph probably got it from there. Chris begs her to make this for Christmas with the crust, because he wants his family to be blown away. He feels grateful for her but hopes he's not forcing her to stay over time. She assures Chris he's her only client this month, so she wants to make him happy. He gives her a key to the house and offers to walk her out. Mary knows she should leave anyway so she can make dinner for Thaddeus. Every day after that, Mary decorates the place and makes Chris try different dishes at dinner. While he works, she's always around, and he gets used to her presence. Mary needs to decorate his office but offers to do it over the weekend if he's busy. Chris opines that she should take a break since she has been at the house every day. He clarifies that he loves having her around, since otherwise, the house is too quiet. Mary mentions this is why she has Thaddeus. Chris gets irritated and asks if she wants to invite him for Christmas. He assumes Thaddeus is her boyfriend, and she rushes home to him every night. It could be a possibility. He knows he would mind too if his girlfriend was spending so much time with her single boss. Mary clarifies that Thaddeus is her cat, and they both laugh about it. Chris is embarrassed and asks her not to mention it to Bella. She assures him he's all she has for the holidays. She informs him about how busy her parents are, and how it's the same every year. Mary believes since she wasn't a planned child, her parents live with her on the side. She explains that when she started her event planning business, she never heard from them. She went to the Ivy League college they wanted but couldn't follow in their footsteps. They keep reminding her she's not good enough every chance they get. Chris admires her work, so she assures him it's more of a dream for her. Chris admits she's perfect but clarifies he means it for the job. Of course he does. Chris is worried about Mary setting up the lights on the roof. He asks her to do it from the balcony, which is much safer. He reminds her to prop the door open, so she can get in if he's not back yet. He's headed into town for an appointment, and promises to be back soon. Chris drives up to Bella's shop, and she is expecting him. She has only heard good things about him and the new job from Mary. Chris knows Mary has been spending Christmas with Bella since she was 12. He invites her and the family to his place for Christmas. He doesn't mind the extra people and asks her to bring food if her family has already started planning for dinner. He wants it to surprise Mary, which Bella thinks is very sweet. He also asks about Mary's situation with her parents. Chris doesn't think she has closure, so Bella explains that her parents act like she doesn't exist. She knows some people don't have a good relationship with their parents. Chris wants to invite them for Christmas too, but Bella knows they won't agree. She also thinks Mary shouldn't be around them when she's working. Chris suggests inviting her parents for Christmas Eve dinner instead. Bella agrees to give him the number but is sure they won't come. Chris explains that he plans a dinner with them at a restaurant on Christmas Eve. He can pick up her parents from the airport and meet her there. Bella knows that will indeed make Mary's Christmas. On his way home, the bridge is closed due to an accident. No one knows how long it will take for the tow truck. The traffic cop suggests Chris wait at a nearby strip mall. Mary is decorating on the balcony when the door shuts, and she can't get it to open. She calls out to Chris but realizes she's not getting any help. While Chris gets a hot chocolate, Mary is still stuck outside in the cold. She tries to take some warmth from the boxes. Chris introduces himself to Carl as Mary's boss. When he praises her work, Carl mentions how proud he is of her. He loves that Mary went to an Ivy League college for her bachelor in business and has opened her own company. Chris wonders if Carl has ever told Mary this. Chris clarifies that Mary misses him a lot and wants a real relationship. Chris asks if his wife is working on Christmas Eve too. When he learns she's not, he asks if they can drop by for an early dinner. When the traffic moves again, Chris hits the road and gets pizza for Mary. He's confused when she doesn't respond and realizes she might be stuck. He rushes upstairs and drags an unconscious Mary outside. He helps her into the bed and makes sure she gets enough warmth. He even ignores Larry's call so he can make sure Mary gets better. He heads to the kitchen to ask his grandpa for help. He can imagine a life with her like Joseph had with his wife. He knows he wants something more than a successful career for the first time. When Chris hears Mary calling out, he rushes to the room and hugs her. Larry doesn't care that Chris has an emergency. He is frustrated that Chris didn't pick up his call 9 times. Chris reminds him that he works from 9 to 5. It's also the first time he didn't pick up Larry's call in 7 years. Larry knows the remote work isn't working and asks Chris to join the office that day. Larry asks him not to come back at all if he resists. Chris quits the job and admits that his grandpa's place made him realize there's more to life than work. Chris asks Mary to teach him how to make an apple pie. He claims he's taking a break and needs to learn something. Bella takes care of Thaddeus on Christmas Eve when Mary is headed out for dinner. Mary feels terrible for not spending Christmas with Bella's family for the first time in 16 years. Bella asks her to stop worrying and knows it will all work out. Carl and Karen thank Chris for flying them up for dinner. They're excited about spending Christmas Eve with Mary after a long time. Mary arrives early for the dinner, so she is asked to check in her coat. Chris and her parents arrive right after. He explains that he made reservations for 3 people so they could dine with Mary alone. Mary is shocked to see them, and Carl seems to remember she loves surprises. Carl admits it was Chris's idea, so Mary insists he needs to join them. Karen admits she wouldn't have agreed to work on Christmas if she knew how much this meant to Mary. Karen asks Mary to communicate more because she and Carl never knew how much the holidays meant to her. They assumed she wanted to spend Christmas with Bella. Mary assumed they didn't want to be around her. They clarified that they thought Mary liked decorating alone. Karen also points out that Mary never asked them to join her. They assumed that Mary was ashamed of them since she never invited any friends to the house. Chris asks them to communicate better from the new year. They all drink to the same resolution they make. Mary wants to drive them to the airport to spend more time with them. She thanks Chris for organizing something so special for her. Mary is nervous on Christmas morning before his family arrives. This event means so much to her that she needs everything to be perfect. When she admits that Chris also means a lot to her, he tries to kiss her. They are interrupted by his parents' arrival. Renee rushes to the kitchen to meet Mary and thanks her for helping with the place. Mary insists she's just doing her job, so Renee wonders if she's an event planner. Mary realizes Chris's cover and claims she wanted to ensure Chris's family had the best Christmas. That's a relief. His dad, Jeff, also introduces himself. Renee thinks the house looks exactly like her dad did it. Mary admits that she tried replicating what she saw from Chris's pictures. Mary admits she has known Chris for a month and met him through Beth. Renee shares that Joseph always wanted to see Chris with someone around the holidays. She is sure Mary is special because Chris never brings any girls home. Chris asks Renee and Mary to meet Arty's family. His daughter, Shira, and wife Elaine hug Mary. Renee is glad to meet Arty in person finally. She brags about Mary dating her son. Elaine is glad Mary found a nice man, but Shira asks her not to embarrass Mary. Bella's family soon surprises Mary, and more people keep coming. They all enjoy a great meal, but Mary has another surprise. She explains that Chris told her about his grandpa always keeping a theme for the decorations. She admits she realized what she wanted as the theme the day she heard Joseph made her Aunt Minnie's chocolate cream pie. She shows them the guardian angel smiling down on them. Chris thanks Mary for a great job. He's glad his mom believes she's his girlfriend. He even gives her the paycheck, so Mary feels like their relationship is only professional. She decides to head out after handing over the gift she got for Chris. When he finds the newspaper clipping of his favorite recipe, he stops Mary. He admits she became more than an event planner and doesn't want to let her go. Mary doesn't think it can work between them, so he admits he's not returning to New York. After quitting his job, he is moving to the lake house permanently. He assures her that the past month has been magical, and she made him reassess his priorities. He loves that she makes him a better person, and kisses her.